Ranger, help us.
Um,
Everybody run!
all right, you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, thank you, man. I appreciate you doing this with me. I really do. Um, we've been living together for like what, a year, so I got pretty close with you.
Yeah.
And I think your story is pretty interesting, and you've helped me out a lot with not just recovery, with a lot of life stuff. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Louie. 48 years old. I live in Tempe, Arizona. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, man. So, do you want to tell us? Do you want to tell me a little bit about how it was for you when you were getting high?
Yeah.
What age did you start getting high? What did that look like for you? When did you find out you had a problem? And how bad did it get? Essentially.
So, sure, I always find it amusing, when we hear, our friend stories in the rooms, with starting young versus starting older. Like, I got high for the first time when I was 27. And, I was on the dance floor of a really big party. Yeah, it started out fun, straight up. Like those times were fun because I was using with recreationally, obviously, but it was with people that cared about me,
Right.
and it was with circles of friends that had jobs, had goals and morals. That went out the window real fast. But yeah, that's what it was like. It was fun. Everything changed. I think everything changed when I started to separate myself from the people that cared about me, and ended up surrounding myself with the dark side of it all.
Right.
That happens fast. You can't get high forever. That's not how it works. That's why normies move on.
Right.
They that was fun and that's it. Yeah.
Right. That's good, man. Thank you. So, and when did you start when did you start seeing that it became a problem?
So
How did that all look like?
so I didn't know I had a problem. That's the twisted mysterious part of it all. I thought because I had a job, I thought because I had I paid for my own drugs. I thought that because I was functional that I didn't have a problem. Like truly, honestly, like even when I would with the circle of people that I was using with, they did it every day. They thought that I saw that and they didn't work. So I thought, oh, I'm not like them. So I think I'm still pretty good.
Right.
That's how that worked. I realized that things were getting bad. When I used to have to hide my debit card. On Friday nights, I would beg my best friends in LA that weren't nuts, just don't give me back my card and take my laptop, because that's how that was a little door to that world, is the online world. But that's when I think it started to get bad was not showing up to work. I managed to hide my issues from my family. So I got away with it for a long time. I got away with it for a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
And they never did they ever question you or?
Never. I was just the fun son that Louis on vacation again. He's out of town.
Oh, right.
He's got a job so he can afford to travel.
Yeah.
That's what they saw. I think.
Right.
No, nobody ever said, what we think you have a problem.
Right.
I managed to hide it well, by working out and trying to keep up with the fitness and the image. With regards to how I dressed, how
Right.
I was always groomed and faded. That's not a pun. Yeah. So no, they never said anything.
Right. Nice, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can relate to that too. What you said where we make an exception to being a drug addict or,
Yeah.
or being an alcoholic.
Yeah.
But like when I go into when I first went into the rooms, I made an exception. And I was like, well, I'm not an alcoholic because I'm not homeless, right? Like, I'm not a drug addict
Yeah.
because I don't
Yes.
shoot dope yet.
Yeah.
You know, and so I always had that misconception or that disconnect from alcoholics.
Yeah. You know.
But like the reality is that I had the same symptoms as them. It just wasn't that bad yet.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's interesting you say that because you know you can't fix a problem if you're not aware of it. And I think that, you know, that in hindsight, that was making it worse, right? Because, you know, I went on like that for, geez, almost 15 years, right? You know, I missed all of my 30s, you know, because, you know, I was living two separate lives, you know. Yeah, what, you know, if it's okay if I speak on that, but what helped me change, you know, was when I had that rock bottom moment, right? You know, like, you know, I, you know, was at somebody's house, you know, and they gave me a substance that, you know, I overdosed, and you know, that brought me into recovery, and that brought me into detox, and you know, being there, and you know, an H&I panel showing up the last night I was there, you know, I had no idea that there was a solution. I didn't know. I thought that I had to figure out how to just manage that last one on Sundays just to make it to work on Monday so I can perform well, right? You know, and get excited for Thursday night.
Right.
Maybe Wednesday nights at the end, but yeah. So being in detox, yeah, that's what changed for me was I heard the solution, and then my last morning of being in that rehab center, you know, the counselor asked me, you know, she said, "What are you gonna do? What's your plan?" And I said, "Well, I need a plan, right?" So, you know, my sisters picked me up from detox that morning, and I told them, you know, take me to your parents' house, and you know, I ratted myself out. You know, I was accountable to my parents. I was accountable to my family. And, you know, I always hear of our friends, you know, saying, you know, they're in sober living and, you know, they're in rehab, you know, living in a house with 5 Mexicans that care about you. That's gnarlier than any rehab or sober living I've ever heard of, right? Like, all of a sudden, you know, I was accountable. And that's what truly changed, you know, for me, is being accountable. You know, I didn't want to put them through that. You know, I relapsed twice on their watch, and I just never wanted to see the look on my family's face coming back from that. You know, it sucked. Yeah. So, you know, that changed everything.
That's good, man. That's so good. And that's what was leading me to my next question is kind of how you got introduced to, you know, recovery, but you kind of already talked about that, right? And so what changed, or how many times did you try to get sober, and then what changed this time?
Yeah.
You moved to Arizona and eventually stayed sober, and you have this beautiful life now, right? Like, how did that look like in between you trying to get sober and relapsing? Like, what did you feel?
Yeah.
How did it happen? You know, and then what changed this time?
So, you know, I think about that all the time, and so I went to detox for that first time that I mentioned earlier when I turned 40. You know, I'm a 40-year-old man, you know, needing to, you know, get nudged into something else. But I've been in the program for 7 years, you know, 7 years. And 4 of that was, you know, in the program in LA. And you know, my whole circle of friends in LA, you know, I care about them a lot. But I wasn't ready to learn about myself and figure out, you know, figure out a different life, right? And it comes down to not having God, right? Like, you know, when I moved here to Arizona, you know, I moved here for work. I moved here for a job. You know, huge opportunity, right? You know, it was the next step in my life with regards to my career.
Right.
And I was sober for 4 years when I got here, and within 2 weeks, I relapsed. Right. So imagine that. I moved here during the height of COVID. I didn't know nobody. Nobody was meeting up. Nobody was fellowshipping. So,
Right.
that was that. But God, God came into my life. Nobody had ever told me to just pray. Nobody had ever told me to trust in God and try to follow His will. Right. That changed for me. That one night when I was at the pigeon coop and I heard Eric speak.
Right.
We had the same sponsor.
Yeah.
Eric, and something just happened. I think I had like 5 or 6 days, and
Right.
I was sitting in the back, and I heard him speak, and just something told me to just go up to him. And how Eric is. He came up to me first. "You have a sponsor, bro?" And I was like, "No." So that's what it was, right? I feel like your sponsor has to inspire you. Your sponsor has to have something that you want for it to work. That combined with the men's group that we're a part of, that sponsors in that specific way.
Right.
That was another piece to the equation to regards to feeling better, right? Like my life is full these days.
Right.
I've never had friends the way I have, now, right?
Right.
John, Jonah, you guys know everything about me and you still want to be my friend. I don't get it.
Yeah.
But if you really think about that, right, that's what friends are.
Right.
John calls me on my shit all the time, and I'm like, all right, fine. So that's good. That's another piece, right? What is there's a saying, when you surround yourself with people, you're eventually going to be like them and act like them, talk like them. And that's what happened, right? I just found that God brought me to all that, right? Like the first time I met you, I was at the Sheriff's of Nottingham meeting.
Yeah.
I was sitting on one of those uncomfortable park benches, and I remember I didn't know nobody except Eric, and
Right.
that's I pushed myself through all that, and God brought us all together. I think,
Yeah.
I sit back and I watch, like, all of us, are happy now. We have the same time. I have 3 years now, and it's nice, like, watching all of us grow, and my life is full.
Right.
Like, relapsing, getting high is not an option. I don't know how I did that for so many years, dude. Like this past New Year's Eve, like, I was out till 1 o'clock and I was miserable the next day.
Right.
Think about that, right? Like, so that's, my life is full. Like, I have no, I don't, it's not an option. I don't even think about it anymore. That's the best part.
It's a miracle.
That's the best part, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Thank you, man. You brought up a lot of good points, which I was gonna pivot towards. Right, it's like the friendships, God, right, the sponsorship, and all of that, man. And we'll just kind of aim towards that, right? Like, how did that look like for you, going through the steps, the way that we were taught over here?
Yeah.
Right? Like, how did that look like for you? And then, how did your spiritual experience, as a result of that, look like for you, and your relationship with God look like for you? That initial time you did the 12 steps with Eric.
Yeah. So I'm really glad you're asking me that question, because I actually thought about it, in the car driving here, because my ego's like, your interview's gonna be amazing. You're gonna change everybody's life. But so it says in the book, and I don't mean to butcher it, but it says that a spiritual experience is vital, for this to work. For some it happens gradually, and for some it happens all of a sudden.
Right.
And that spiritual experience for me was all of a sudden. I made a friend on Zoom here, in Arizona. And it was during that relapse that I mentioned earlier. And this is prior to me having God, right? And I was in it, that day. And he called me out of the blue, this friend of mine. And I was sending these really lame ass gratitude lists. I'm grateful for donuts and coffee. So, and he saw that, and he, called me, and, he asked me, what's it gonna take for, you to get out of it?
Right.
And I said, I don't know. I don't know what to do, right? And then he said something that changed my life. He said, why don't you just pray? Pray, fucking pray, dude, pray. And this dude stayed on the phone with me, and he prayed with me. Like, I didn't know, nobody had ever done that. I'm aware of God. There's a reason why I didn't die that day. When I OD'd. But yeah, he prayed with me.
Right.
Never met. We're still friends now. I talk about it all the time. But it came into my life all of a sudden.
Right.
I started praying. He helped me at that moment. Delete phone numbers. I threw all this stuff away. And then I met Eric. Like days later, and the way we do step work and the way he took me through the book. He did all the reading the way we do it, explained it, stopped, and he put me in the book. He connected me, and he showed me where I was at in the doctor's opinion. He showed me, where I was at in Bill's story.
Right.
And I'm like, ooh, that's me. Ooh, that's me. Damn, that's me too. And it turns out I am not a moderate drinker. Yeah. I'm a hard drinker, dude. Yeah. So that's what changed, is having a sponsor to really explain it and help me realize that, now that we figured out the problem, it took me to step 3, the actor scenario. The actor scenario is rad, dude. I talk about it all the time. We joke around, that's actor scenario, fool. Go back and say I'm sorry, that's it, Yeah. So not only did it offered me a reason why I do the things that I do, but it offered me a solution, all within 2 or 3 weeks, because we get through the steps fast. The faster you do the steps, the faster it's going to connect you to God, and that's where it's at.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, man. No, thank you. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on the third step?
On the third step. Oh God, John's gonna kill me now. You see, because he's so part of the men's group that I'm a part of, right?
Right.
We do the steps every year. Mm-hmm. So that's so genius, dude. Like, that's such a good idea, is to do the steps with somebody else that that, so that you get to experience what they experience too. Mm-hmm. But so the third step for me, I'm constantly putting myself in a position to be hurt. I self-will run riot. What's the other line? I forgot. But yeah, like all of that, like I constantly take my life into, take my will and not try to see God's will, right? It says at the end that of the actor scenario, when we do His work well, remarkable things will follow, right? That's good. God's in charge, right? Personally, like I suffer from the disease of perception. That's another, part of it says that it's centered in our minds and our body, right? It's my thinking. I've always had skewed thinking, and the fact that I was taught to follow somebody else's will versus mine. Right. Let's go, right? So that's why I pray the way that I pray, to just help me see it. Just try to help me see it, because that way, if I'm trying to follow God's will, and take mine out of it, God is pure, loving, and kind. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times my will is not pure at all. Yeah. So that's really what I got out of the third step. Is letting it go. Somebody else is in charge, dude. It's not me. Yeah. It can't be, because I wouldn't be here.
That's so good, man. And that's it's amazing that you brought up too, like, my will, like what I want is not so like you know, it's so good, right?
Yeah.
My will is not always the best thing for me, and because I'm not perfect, but that's the beautiful thing about it is that I know that there's something perfect out there. So it's comforting to know that I have something to look up to and look towards and
Yep.
try to grow towards.
Yep.
Knowing that I won't ever get to that level of perfection,
Mm-hmm.
but that's always a goal, you know?
It's good,
So
isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always cool to know that, hey, like I'm not perfect, but I'm okay with not being perfect, right? Because that allows me to grow more, you know?
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, because just like we were talking about in the morning, you know, every mistake is an opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
You know? Like we go through these things.
I should
and
write that
it's
down. That's
yeah.
good.
And it's like, damn, I fucked up. But instead of like looking at it as, damn, I messed up and getting self-pity about it and beat myself up
Yeah.
about it, I can look at it as an opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, look, this is a character defect of mine because I keep going through this even though I don't want to. So now it's glaring and I can start working towards that. And the way I know how to work towards that is with God.
Yes.
You know?
I'm not afraid of failure.
Right.
No, I've God removed the fear. I actually I flip it like I don't mind failing because all that means two things for me when I fail, which doesn't happen that often anymore because I have God now. And I hope that doesn't sound like ego, but when I fail, it's because I wasn't thinking of God's will. It was my will, and second is all failure means is life saying go there because that way didn't work. And that's great. That's truly how I figure shit out, right? Like with work in my career, like I love my job. I like what I do, and it shows because I'm able to walk in there and I excel, and I do really good, and that's because I don't have fear, because He's in charge, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's good, man. And so, do you want to talk about a little bit about your relationship with God?
Yeah.
How does that look like for you? What's the process of you growing with Him? What's your prayer life look like?
Yeah.
All that stuff. How does that look like for you?
So, yeah, it's really good, man. I'm constantly trying to, pray in different ways and asking other people how they pray, but I pray every morning. I pray at night, but I also I pray on my way to work. No, because and I say that it's related to what I just said about being successful. I pray like He's sitting next to me. I pray like me and you now, right? Like that way He's with me. He's with me all the time, right? Like I totally make it normal. Just the other night, yesterday actually, I was at a restaurant with a friend of mine, and we prayed before we ate, and I felt him recoil, like, what are you doing? And I really try to not be embarrassed by doing that, and I talk about it all the time, right? When I speak and when I share at meetings, and when they call your ticket, I always talk about God. I always mention God in my shares, right? Because when I was trying to get better and when I was doing the steps, I begged God for help. And I promised Him, if you help me get better, I'm going to tell everybody it was you. And that's why I do that, because, God can't help you if you don't seek Him out.
Right.
I didn't seek Him out at the beginning. And I think that's why when I had that spiritual experience that I mentioned earlier, I seeked Him out. It's the same thing. If you don't eat right, you're not going to lose weight. If you don't work out, you're not going to get muscles. And it's the same thing with God. So I seek Him out now, and I try to help people, right? I always have sponsees, and I'm always trying to help them, and I tell them the same way Eric taught me. Don't depend on me. no, it's God.
Right.
Talk to God, and that's it. Yeah.
Perfect, man. And that was leading up to my next question too, man. And that's beautiful what you said, right? Like it's really like I really do have to seek him out. And I was watching this video, but I forgot what it said, right? But one of the main things with prayer is presence, right? Like you have to be aware of his presence.
That's good.
Before praying.
That's good.
Because if not, it just kind of it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
So that's a good point, and that's funny because I just saw that video the
His
other
presence.
day. It's like I need to be aware of his presence, right? Like I need to be intentional.
Yeah.
About my prayer.
That's good.
If not, like it's not
intentional.
It's not intentional. Like I don't really want to grow with him. I'm just trying to pray so I can feel better, and that's selfish.
Yeah. Well, I think
that I haven't done that, but
well, God is always present in my life. I constantly see it, right? Like that goes back to when I talked about being friends with you and with Johnny Boy and all that. It's like how I don't deserve, like God gave me grace, right? Like he gave me those friendships because I've lied to my friends, I've stolen from them.
Right.
No, I there's no reason why God would bring me such quality people. I think that grace is connected to gratitude. So I'm constantly thanking God, like I have a good life, man.
Right.
No, I'm really lucky. God gave me favor. I think that God wants all of us to have favor. But go in big, ask for something huge. There's no reason why God's gonna help all the other men in our fellowship, but not me. Nothing about nothing of what I did was unique.
Right.
The solution is not unique. The way we pray is not. So if you seek Him out, remarkable things will follow.
Exactly.
That's
So
right.
simple. Yeah. But we overcomplicate it. So you brought up the topic of sponsorship, and I just wanted to ask you how that looked like for you, because I know that you always have guys in the book.
Yeah.
I know that you're always constantly trying to do step work and taking them to meetings and doing stuff with them, which I admire about you. So do you want to talk about what that looks like for you?
Sponsoring?
Yeah, sponsoring.
Yeah. That just goes back to helping people, helping somebody, right? That is one of the requirements in our men's group is being a sponsor. I don't want to be the only person, that figures it out. I don't want to be the only happy person. So I really try to, to. That's why I share the way that I share in meetings, to try to attract somebody that wants sponsorship. John and Eric taught me to go up to the guy, right? Go up. Sometimes I get gnarly. Sometimes I think I scare these guys. You have a sponsor? No. But I enjoy it, right? Like sponsoring is fun, man, because I get to read the book again. I get to read the steps over and over again. Right. I hope one day, that I'm able to have that book knowledge the way our friends do. You know what I'm talking about. Right. Maybe one day I'll be at the retreat and they'll call my name and I'll da 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 da. But in the meantime, I hope that doesn't happen. But it's a pretty fucking rad feeling, man. To get a sponsee all the way through 12. And I've done it 3 times. And it's and then they're sponsoring, and my sponsees, 2 of them, they call me almost every day. Right. And that's a whole nother friendship, right? That's a I got to help them get connected to God, right? One of them didn't like God at all. Right. And now we talk about it and he thanks me. I don't know, don't thank me, dude, thank God. I'm a relapse away from losing it. So I like sponsoring. I think it's it's, you have to give it away, dude. Right. God wants us to help somebody. So that's a form of it.
Yeah, it would be selfish of me not to.
Right.
Because it was freely given to us.
Freely. Isn't that rad? This program is free.
Yeah.
Dude, I've spent thousands of fucking dollars on therapy, dude. And I paid 2 therapists for like a year. I'm not knocking therapy, if you feel that you need it, but both of them at the end of the year told me the same thing. Have you ever heard of AA? And I was like, what, dude? And all it costs is a fucking $1, dude.
Yeah.
Every time we go, it's free, right? That's the best part.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's so freely given. That's good.
Thank you, man. So, what is one of your biggest struggles?
My biggest struggles today.
Right. Yep. Or as a whole, right? Living this spiritual life, being sober, trying to grow with God.
Yeah.
Sponsoring people.
Yeah.
Right. Going to meetings, working, trying to implement all the principles into your life. What is one of the biggest struggles that you run into?
Yeah, one of my biggest struggles, I think, still that I experience is being comfortable with myself, right? I'm constantly, that's just goes back to my thinking and perception.
Right.
I've always struggled with my sexuality and being okay with it. And I don't want to feel that way.
Right.
God doesn't make mistakes, man. So I come from a good family. My dad was my mom's first boyfriend, in high school, and they're still together now.
Right.
So I have all, that healthy, normal family life, but I still feel that way, right? And it's tied to my self-worth issues.
Right.
And I'm constantly trying to, I just, all I can do is pray, pray that I feel better, and don't get me wrong, I'm happy. I feel that I used to think that success was measured by how much money you had and your possessions. But, now for me, success is measured with being spiritually fit. I'm always able to lay down and go to bed at night knowing that I did the best job possible. And I do. Like I don't have bad days anymore. Like I don't wake up pissed off anymore. I don't go to sleep pissed off anymore.
Right.
And I don't know. I think that's pretty good. But yeah, being okay with myself.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, and I know a lot of people, struggle with that to a certain degree. Especially when you're alcoholic, you're always thinking about what other people are thinking about you.
What is that about? I don't get that. That's so fucking lame, dude.
I still think about that shit all the time for some reason. Not all the time. It's gotten better,
Yeah.
But it's like sometimes I'll catch myself. Oh, what does this person think about me? Or when I walk into a meeting, like it's still.
That's your thinking, though, dude. That's our thinking, right?
Yeah.
It says in the book that it's the disease is centered in our minds and our body, right?
Right, exactly.
That's our minds, it's our thinking. So I don't think that's ever going to change.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No,
it'll get better, but I don't think it's.
Maybe they should make a pill for it. They make a pill for all these things, but not that.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to think of that.
Well, it's a spiritual disease.
Good. That's good. It's true.
There's. So yeah, man. Thank you so much for doing this with me. I'll ask you one more question. What is something that you have heard recently that you've been living by, or something that you've read, a certain quote that you've heard, something that you've just been living by lately?
Yeah.
If you have one, if not like an old one or something that's helped you along the way, something that your sponsor has said before, something that's really resonated with you.
Yeah,
Stuck with you.
I listen to a lot of motivational videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
Sometimes I instead of listening to music at the gym, I'll listen to Brené Brown and Steve Harvey's the things that he says when he talks about God. Right. He says these little snippets like always do the right thing even when nobody's looking. Right. That's a big deal for me because we all tend to stray when we're alone, and those little quotes that I hear help a lot. God can't help if you don't seek him out. I heard that in a podcast years ago, and I thought, whoa, that's pretty profound. No, if you can't help it if you don't ask, go in big, ask big, and that's what helps me. Like I can't think of any off the top of my head, because we're doing this, but
No,
but yeah,
those were perfect, man.
yeah,
Those help a lot, and now they resonate differently with me now than before. Like I'll go back and I'll look at older quotes that I have seen before in the past, and I'm like, damn, like this didn't mean what it used to mean.
it's so good, huh? I know.
Like it's something completely different. And
You experienced that too?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I see what they actually, well, not what they actually meant because I don't know what they meant, but now I know what it means to me, kind of thing, Especially when it's quotes about like God or self-growth or self-love, It's like they didn't mean what they used to mean to me.
It's good, and it's free.
Yeah. So yeah, man, thank you so much for doing this with me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for asking me.
Yeah, of course. And anything else you want to say?
That's it. I love you, man.
Thank you. Love you too, brother.
Thanks.
All right, let's go. That was good.
You really?
Your ass is nervous.